Well, we've got a bit to talk about. We got to talk about some offseason quotes and who should the Ducks pick up, and also a short little Calder Cup preview on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So we got to talk about some off-season quotes that literally just came down yesterday. And while I was home late to do a podcast with Robin Lianio and check out Locked On Coyotes, I did a whole hour episode. That episode ran way long and it was getting late. So instead, we're just going to have one show today, and there will be a couple of double headers later this week, including special guests later on. So yeah, look forward to that. In the meantime, we got to talk about some of these quotes that just went down. And by the way, stick taps to Derek Lee for obtaining a lot of these quotes. And there's some pretty decent ones that kind of had me thinking a little bit. And I got to get started with one of the big ones for me personally. Is I'm a big fan of Lukas Dostal, as you all know. And I got to give props to Dostal for coming in and playing the amount of games that he did. I mean, I thought he did a terrific job playing as many games as he did. And I did like this quote from Lukas Dostal himself, because he played 44 games this season, the most he's ever played as a pro in one season. Quote, "It was kind of a big step, playing in a lot of the games, but everything is experienced to this point. I'm just going to take that experience into the summer and continue to get better and better so I can help the team. It was a great experience to play a lot of games," end quote, which is good for Lukas Dostal. I think he deserves to play, ready for this? I think he deserves to play even more games than that. Between Dostal and Gibson has had some good games. He's also had some games that kind of leaves your head scratching a little bit. So do I want to see more of a tandem? Yes, I do. I want to see more of a tandem, but not so fast, because Pat Verbeek had this quote to say, and this one I think is going to infuriate some fans. Quote, "Ultimately, I think we're going to come to a point where we've got to win hockey games, and it's going to become competitive. It's a situation to where who's playing the best could be taking the net. We're kind of getting close to that spot right now. Obviously, Dostal played a lot of games, probably a bit more than I would have envisioned when he got here. But I think now we're in a good spot. Okay, we have two goaltenders who can play equally well. I think it's a really good thing in a sense to where there's competition within the lineup, and that's going to bring out the best in everyone and our team," end quote. Okay, Lukas Dostal and John Gibson did have a pretty even season last year. As far as the metrics are concerned, the expected goals with both goalies, fairly even. Not fairly even, very even. Even looking at some of the basic stats with Dostal and Gibby, also very even. While I want to see more of a goalie tandem, and I agree that Dostal did come in and play very well, the part that I didn't like was where Pat Verbeek said it's going to be a competition, and basically whoever's playing the best is going to take the net. Okay, so if John Gibson starts going on a heater, he's going to play 60-something games again. If Dostal goes on a heater, he's going to play 60-something games. When you have two very equally good goaltenders and one of them is ready to make it to the big leagues, you kind of want to continue that a little bit. At least I would like to see that continued just a little bit. This season, Yeah, there was 44 games played for Dostal. There was 46 played for John Gibson. Dostal had a 902 save percentage. John Gibson had an 888 percentage. John Gibson's numbers have been going down pretty steadily since his playoff run. Actually, really since 2018, the last time the Ducks made the playoffs. 2019, save percentage 917, then 904, then 903, then 904, then 899, then 888. His worst save percentage of his professional career. His goals against is actually a little bit better this season, but there's also not a bajillion shots against him. Okay, fine. This year, John Gibson only saw 1,343 shots against him. That's the second least in his career. Second least. And he still allowed 151 goals. The metrics. What do the metrics say? They say that Łukasz Dostal a little bit better than John Gibson at this point. When I look at hockey stat cards for this season, I gotta say, even though it looks like it's fairly even, and it kind of is, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna put it out there. Dostal had an average of negative 0.12. Gibby's negative 0.17. So along those metrics, the expected goals allowed. Dostal had an individual expected goals of 123.6. He allowed 129. John Gibson's an expected 1.42.1 against 150 goals allowed. So John Gibson had more expected goals allowed. But look at the expected goals. 123 for Dostal, 142 for John Gibson. Is that something to be a little bit concerned about? Is it maybe that the team plays a little bit better in front of Łukasz Dostal? I would say, yeah, a little bit. The team plays a little bit harder in front of Dostal. They play a little bit better in front of Dostal. This is also attributed to the fact that Dostal is a better puck handler. A little bit better puck handler than John Gibson. I mean, we've seen Dostal score a goalie goal for crying out loud. So I get the metrics. I completely get them 100%. And I agree with the fact that Dostal should be playing more. And I get that it's competitive. But to see them compete for a number one spot, I don't like that at all. So I hope they continue the tandem next season. And if someone's going to come out on top, I think it is going to be Dostal. Just don't run them to the ground. We've seen that happen several times with several goalies throughout the years, and I hate it. Oh, but that's not all that we got from quotes yesterday because, oh, there's a lot more. We're talking about the leadership group. Okay, so there is no captain. Here's what Greg Cronin said. Quote, we don't have a captain. We have some A's. They rotate through. I think we need to have a captain next season. We need to find a leadership group that can hold teammates accountable, end quote. So as you know, Jakob Silfverberg did retire this season. He was one of the steadfast alternate captains for the Anaheim Ducks over the past few years. Losing Jakob Silfverberg hurts in that regard. So there needs to be a leadership group that is really going to bring everyone together. And my pick for the captain for next season, and this has been my pick for a while, is Troy Terry. Oh, by the way, Troy Terry, he also talked a little bit. And I think Troy Terry does need to be the leader of the future. Oh, yeah, Troy Terry had a couple of quotes. Here's one of them. Quote, I'm proud of all of them. The young players played really well. I think they're all considerably better players now than they were at the start of the year. They take a lot of pride in their development, end quote. Bam. I love that from Troy Terry. He's proud of them. It was because of Troy Terry that Leo Carlsson gained the amount of confidence that he did as the season went on. That is a leadership quality from Troy Terry. The fact that he even just took guys aside and really just gave them the confidence. and gave them a little bit of that mental boost that those young guys needed. That's perfect. That's brilliant. But it only works if he's 100% healthy, because there was this quote from Troy Terry as well. Quote, I was sitting on the couch watching all these guys play in the playoffs, and I know they've all got all kinds of stuff going on. It's just a part of it. All that stuff is part of the maturing process. I'm excited to take advantage of maybe not making the playoffs and having a longer summer and just getting fully healthy and into the gym, end quote. Troy Terry did say that his shoulder injury still bothered him to game 82. So when Troy Terry was back from injury, he was never 100%. He wasn't. And I kind of suspected that there were some guys that didn't play 100% all the way through. Troy Terry being one of those guys that, as we now know, was not 100% through the end of the season. Trevor Zegras, very likely not playing 100% through the end of the season. So health does play a factor to it. But there's this quote from Patrick, and this is a great quote. And this is about Troy Terry going into the leadership role. Quote, it's something I've wanted and a role I've wanted to be in since I was in college and now in pro hockey. Being a leader is always easier when you're winning, and it's hard when you're losing. End quote. He acknowledges that it is going to be hard and it is going to be a long road. And it sounds like Troy Terry is ready to accept that challenge of being the captain for a rebuilding team. These are the kind of quotes that you want from a future leader. These are the kind of actions that you want from someone that is going to lead a team to glory. Those are the actions of a future captain. And I know some are saying Mason McTavish, future captain. Okay, not Trevor Zegras, but how about Mason McTavish? How about another player? No, for me, it is Troy Terry, 100 out of 100 times. I sincerely hope Troy Terry is the captain for the Ducks next season. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. So that's what I take away from some of those quotes. And there's a lot more quotes to talk about. I'll get to that. Actually, no, I will get to that momentarily, because one of them has to do with off-season moves. So we will get to that on the other side. Now, a brief word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience heavily underlined, folks, is what gives you the winning formula. Yeah, that's right. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because you're burning rubber, not cash, with eBay Motors. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And we're also brought to you by FanDuel. That is right. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and it's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL and the AHL. Did you know FanDuel has AHL lines as well? Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose if you're in a state that can do it. Bet on everything from slap shots to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's number one sportsbook, and FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Let's talk about some off-season moves that need to be made. And there's a bunch that need to be made. And I'm going to just go off of this further quote, because Pat Verbeek did talk about this, about what he wants to see from the Ducks this offseason and what he's hoping for. He's hoping that the Ducks are going to pick up power killers. Okay. What does that mean, power killers? Well, basically part of the penalty kill where he wants someone like Leo Carlson on the penalty kill. So here's what Pat Verbeek said, quote, I have an advantage from my playing days to kind of relate. Leo's long. He's got the long reach. He's a really smart player. There are certain things that I look at on penalty kills that is advantageous. I also see Cutter doing the same thing, being involved in the penalty kill. There you go. One of the things that puts power plays on edge is knowing that the players they're playing against have the ability to knock pucks down and take them the other way and score shorthanded. That hinders the effectiveness of power plays, knowing that they have to be careful in how they attack, and if there are turnovers, they could go in the net, end quote. There's a team that I work for, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, that are very effective on the penalty kill. Part of that is player personnel. I know a big part of it is assistant coaches as well, and that should definitely change. But on the player side, I'm just talking the player side, not the coach's side, you need guys that are long. You need guys that are smart. You need someone that can take the penalty kill to another level. The Ducks have been missing that since trading Adam Henry, and especially since trading Sam Carrick. You need a penalty killing forward that can be long and lengthy and knock down pucks. That's what you absolutely need. Cutter Gauthier being one of those guys that I think the Ducks need to give a hard look to. And, you know, someone else that I really, really like, by the way, as far as like penalty killing, wow, this is kind of tough to say because there's a lot of good defensive forwards in the league. Even though he's, Vegas, I've always thought that Mark Stone was a very good defensive forward. Philippe Deneau is a very good defensive forward. It's going to be very tough to pick up a defensive forward in free agency this year. But what I do know is that the Ducks are going to be looking for some defensemen as well. Oh, really? Yeah. This is also a quote that Pat Verbeek is looking to add some forwards, and he's also looking to add a top 4 right defenseman this offseason. Okay. So Pat Verbeek and Greg Cronin, you're looking for right-handed defensemen. You've got a couple of good, young right-handed defensemen, right? But if you are looking even further, you know what? How about this? How about Philip Roenick? How about Brandon Montour? How about bringing both of those guys back? That could be fun. So those are 2 right-handed defensemen that I am looking to. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. You'll notice that it sounds very different right now. We're going through some technical difficulties right now. And just to keep it transparent, Mike went out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to end the episode right here. That way we don't have too many minutes of bad audio. And hopefully we will get this figured out, and we're going to try to hammer out as many episodes as we can throughout the weekend, because there's a lot to get to, including playoffs, AHL playoffs, draft lottery, end of season stuff. So there's still a lot going on right now. So just want to keep you guys in the loop as to what's going on and why the last segment suddenly cut out right in the middle of recording. So just want to let you know what's going on there. In the meantime, we're just going to finish this now. And I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and apologies for the glitch happening there. But yeah, there we go. That happens sometimes. We will be back this weekend. Going to try to get out as much as possible. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, etc., etc. I'm on Twitter at StippyJD. Show's Twitter's at LO_Ducks. So once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.